higit sa manunupig. Dito masisiin sa lahat ng mundo, sa sibuyas, sa langit ng bakaw. May nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang islang ng pagkawan mo'y tagumpay na nagniningin. Ang bituin ng taong niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lumalang araw ng malhami pagsinta, ay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya naman may mag-api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Hi guys, I'm so glad to be able to share to you my knowledge on how to make reviewers. Is if there are any new participants, ikaw na lang mang-add sa ila ako na okay lang. Thank you. Okay, so stemming from what Jeff mentioned about taking care of your classmates, working or pressed for time, reviewers are also another tool for giving them that easier access to knowledge. Of course, reviewers by the word itself, they're meant for reviewing only, diba? Because kung magtuon ka for law school, you have to really study as much as possible full text ng imo cases or word for word sa mga pang assigned reading sa inyo sang inyong prof and all those. And reviewers, you just review in time for the exam or for the recitation. But personally, ang ako niyang take on reviewers is that these are compressed versions of the entire lecture of your professors for the subject. So, gina-share ko nila yon sa ako ng mga classmates, especially sa working students, in such a way nga para amo na lang ning basahon nila instead of the actual readings. So of course, it's another shortcut, and definitely why ni siya gina-encourage sa mga professors, I also don't encourage it, but para lang may option ng bala ang mga working students, those who can literally only study for 30 minutes in a day or once every week, at least they have something to lean on, if ever. So to speak pa, crutch sang iba ng mga what do you call this? Mga students. So digest pools, and reviewers, these are ways for which mga law students can really help each other out. Kami, ang amon nga batch specifically, only started making reviewers after our prelims. And it's not much of a horror story kay kakatabo giniya, but ang amon to nga class, we were two sections, section E and F. We all failed constantly except for one girl. So all of us were 59 of, no, not 59. Mga 39 of us failed. Only one passed. And ang pass niya pa to 76 out of 100. So 1 point lang siya. So definitely it was an eye-opener, and dira gid gin push gito sa amon nga professor na manghimo kami reviewers, digest pool, para may buliliganay bala. And that's what law school is all about. So as early as now, hindi niyo pag-i-fight ang inyong mga classmates. And may fight of course, if they're wrong. But isama lang ni kontra naton, so to speak, which is our goal of being lawyers, passing the bar. So buliliganay man kita. We're all allies in this war, so to speak. Okay, so how can you make reviewers? And you can do this individually, you can do this with your friends, you can do this with the entire class, but it's up to you really. If for your own personal manang nga ano and nahuya ka be kay base bala sala ang ginapambutang mo da, you can do it by yourself. But if confident ka that you can share it to your classmates or you can share it to your entire batch. Okay, so what do you need to know about making reviewers? Right. Okay, first of all, anong man gining unod sang reviewer bala how do I just make things up like I don't know. Article 4 on citizenship of the Constitution is discriminatory. Ako na bala. And then also, of course, if your classmate who was not able to actually read Bernas comes into a question regarding Article 4 citizenship and amo na nabasahan niya sa imo, they will take your reviewer as law. So you have to be very careful of what you put in your reviewer. So do not put any opinions or mga ano mo, mga own personal na sabat mo sa mga questions. Don't put that. Unless you specify it as the author's note. So that's fine. Although may always reader beware mananabi sa reviewer, but as much as possible, if makonstruct ka man ng reviewer, make it legally sound man. So almost 50%, not even 50%, I would gauge it at around 70% of the content of your reviewer will be based on your sources. Books mo, codals, assigned cases, provisions of the laws that are dependent on by your professor. You put all of those as your sources of your reviewer. And then of course your notes. And your notes does not have to come from you, ha? They have to come from an authority gapon. So if you have Bernas, you have Natura, Cruz as your sources in your constitutional law, then ang imong notes have to come from your professor also. Or iban pag ang sino, pag let's say be Clarence Chube as your another reviewer, pwede man. But as early as now, ikaw bilang a mere first year law student or even second year, third year, or fourth year law student, as a mere law student, ang imong opinion, ang imong notes do not yet constitute as an authority. So i-avoid mo gina siya mga personal malaya. Unless butangan mo lang personal, personally, I think that during the Japanese occupation, the courts should not have or personally, ng other cases. I think that in Poe, that Grace Poe should not be considered as a citizen of the Philippines because foundlings should not have citizenship because I hate babies. So you cannot insert your personal opinions in your reviewer, especially kung basihan siya sa imong classmates magsulat sila sang mga sabat nila. So as much as possible, everything will be based on your books. Okay. So amo nang imong data, no? And in this very cliche nga pyramid, wait lang kita, diba? Oops. Tumbo ang slides. In this very cliche nga pyramid, you have your data and you want to arrange it to make it become information, and you have to arrange it further to become knowledge and wisdom. So something like that. But the creation of a reviewer is all about organization, organizing data in such a way that the reader will be able to extrapolate that data and make use of it in answering legal questions. So it's very important. Personally, ginabutan ko na gani. Damdamo ang mga bar questions in my reviewers themselves, or not even bar questions, maybe just mga simple questions, like is a foreigner who has renounced his citizenship allowed to run for office? So the answer is no. Dapat there is another step of repatriating yourself to become a Filipino citizen before you can run for office. So something But you have to always cite your sources. As much as possible, so yung mga reviewers, you can't just write down stuff. You write down the case, or you write down the section, or the article, or the provision. Mamuna. Okay. Although if wala man, may assumption, man nga credible ang imong source. But try not to forget. Anyway, so here are the 3 steps in creating your reviewer. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sigurado lang basi lipat ko no basi may 4 steps gani. First is, as I said earlier, is you gather all your sources. So as has been suggested by Jeff, you look at the syllabus of your class. Dira gina nakabutang tanan-tanan. I'm saying this as per class because when you ka reviewer per class man na mo, or per subject rather. I mean, of course, kuha ka na bar, there's civil law reviewer, political law reviewer, labor law reviewer, and those encompass several subjects. But at this point, you can just do it per class lang. There's no point of combining persons and family relations and criminal law into one reviewer. Kay budlayan na ang imong reader mag-understand. Anyway, so you have your syllabus. Let's say your professor does give you a syllabus, because there's some professors who don't. You look into the readings, their main reference. For example, Constitutional Law by Father Berdas, or Reviewer on Political Law by Justice Natura. So those are your assigned readings. And then for your assigned readings, there are assigned sections for per topic, diba? And then for per topic, there are assigned pages, etc. You know what I mean naman. And then of course, aside from your readings, you have your cases. So ano da ang iba ng cases? Kalalang versus Williams. I forgot already my constitutional law cases, but those cases, Enoch versus IAC. So you just gather all of your sources and you put them all in a Google Drive, or if you want to take it as it is, download mo lang siya when the time comes. But it's better to be organized as early as now. Okay, and of course, other laws na ginapanggamit man as legal basis are a 7160 local government code, for example. The Civil Code of the Philippines, RA 386, for your persons and family relations. The Revised Penal Code, RA whatever, lipat na ho. Muna. So you can use all of those as your sources. And as what was shown previously, now that you have all your data, you want to organize them in such a way that they are interpreted as information or even knowledge, like that. So you organize your data. So ang importante gidire is you follow your teacher's flow, because kung how your teacher discusses ang subject, amo man ang basehan mo mag-review later on. Diba, reviewers, as I said earlier, are your study material that you would rely on prior to taking your exam or your recitation. So when that happens, you got to make sure that puno-puno na or complete na ang tanan na information in preparation for that exam. So your prelims, lain to be ako nga konstiwan, maging jumble-jumble to ni sir. Ang amon nga prelims was citizenship, territory, tapos ang Article 12, and then the constitutional commissions. I think amo nga prelims. So you can follow your teacher's flow if you want la, but of course if hindi, sunda ang iya sang law. But the trouble there is you're not going to be able to prepare yourself for the examinations. Each teacher is different. Lucky lang sa amon sang second year, most of our subjects gina-teach sang isa ka teacher. Property was just by Judge Go, labor was just by Attorney Bellones, Crim Pro was just by Judge Go, ano pa gito? Civil Pro was just by Judge Go, Sorry, there are two judge gods, ha? Basi ambal ni ng grabe judge ko damo. Yeah, there are two judge gods, Judge Vicente Go and Judge Yvette Go. Anyway, so it was easier. But dire subong lain-lain in yung prof for persons, for your consti. So lain-lain man ang ilang teaching style and ang ilang examination style. So you just have to sort of adjust to it. But in the next year, the following batch of freshmen, they will also be getting them. So for example, as of now, beneficial ang ako ng reviewers that I made sa second year because some of the second years now are taking the same professors that I took. So labor, of course, Attorney Bellones, property, Judge Go, but I think they have a different prof now. So what is important here is that you understand the pattern of your teachers, you understand the teaching style of your teachers, and that you can predict kung ano ang tudloan sang inyong teachers. And then sharing is caring, sa reviewers. Your reviewers are timeless. They will be improved upon. Amo na ako na deal with Isa. Ang ako ng tanang reviewers, I have already given it to her and given her authority, to amend my reviewers and further improve it again. You know, as early as now, actually, amo ang challenge nga hatag ko kay section A, B, and D. Attorney Gillian, almost every year, 2 to 3 sections na iyang take care of mo. But I don't know why right now wala sila gyapon sang reviewers based on Attorney Gillian's constitutional law class. So I'm challenging the batch of first years right now to organize yourselves and to make an Attorney Gillian reviewer for constitutional law. Mag fourth year ka mo, mag political law review, siya man nagyapon inyong teacher, and you'll be glad that you have made an Attorney Gillian reviewer. Okay, I mean, Attorney Gillian's teaching of constitutional law is very comprehensive. So it's not that you're preparing yourself for the professor. No, of course not. But mag-ask siya questions. It's very bar exam like. So you're basically already preparing yourself for the bar exam. So it's good. Excuse me. Right. Okay. Mag-organize ka na dayon sing inyong data, sing inyong sources. There's nothing like important to least important. It's not a news article na kung inyong header is supposed to give away already the knowledge that you need. No. All provisions in the reviewer are going to be important. And you have to have that assumption that the reader will read everything in your reviewer. So you have to make sure that sakto na siya. Next, bullet points are your best friend. So, i-interject ko lang kaginang how to write a digest ni Jeff. Personally, I like to have bullet points. Why ko yaga by paragraph? Because for me, every bullet point is one idea. If it's just a paragraph, kasakit sa mata ko. But that's a personal ano lang. But for those who can relate, bullet points are your best friend. So when you're going to talk about a certain topic, let's say, again, natural territory. When you're going to discuss a certain topic, it's best you discuss it in bullet points. Natural territory. Territory. Tapos definition. Codal provision, and then definition of islands, definition of natural territory. Contiguous zone. Oh my God, sorry. Contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone. Mama mo na bala. Nga how hambal ni Duterte, ma-jet ski to siya sa West Philippine Sea. Those kinds of things. But what I'm saying is, don't put it all in just one paragraph. You have to break up the ideas so that the absorption of the reader of your reviewer is also in terms of ideas. Next, mnemonics are also your best friend. Damo na yung best friend, you know. So mnemonics are, the study of law has a lot to do with memorization. And as someone who came from a pre-med course, mnemonics are really our best friend because, diba, dapat kailangan mo gid memorize ya nga how amo ni ang mga tests to determine oh my god, my knowledge of constitutional law is really okay. In the constitutional law, persons and family relations, for example, what are the various grounds rather for legal separation? So Article 55 provides blah 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 pula sila. Or let's say, what are the grounds for declaration of nullity of marriage? Article 35 provides blah 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 blah. So most of the times you have to memorize them because there are some teachers that will be asking you those questions. So you have to try to memorize those. Okay. Thank you. Mayari ko sang ga-feed sa akong information. Territory, government, sovereignty. Okay. Oh my God, sovereignty. Ano gani ah? Okay, parts of a state. Anyway. Kita mo midterms na yun una namon daan sa amon na consti nga ang citizenship. Anyway, all right. It's very important dayon as a visual learner that your reviewers should contain a lot of visual aids. Of course, words are visual aids, pero if it is something that has to do with procedure, it has something to do with my flow siya, it's best to put certain tables or graphs to illustrate ang ina nga mga doctrines. So if it is something that you can visualize, it is best to visualize. I'll be showing you later a sample of my tables para makabulig. Thank you very much, Jeff. Oh, there you go. You have lots of friends here at least. Just kidding. that's not an insult. Aside from your classmates, at least damo ka mga best friends in bullet points, mnemonics, tables, and visual aids. So the thing about making a reviewer is like the scrapbook man siya bala. It doesn't have to be boring. It's just all words. Like UST golden notes. Or Sanbeda's notes. Just kidding. At the end of the day, it has to be, no, because amo na absorb ang lawyer, ang law student. But personally, it doesn't have to be. It can be fun. It can be easy. For those may medyo photographic memory, medyo na, it's easier for them to understand visually. So kung visual man lang, visual man na lang eh. But of course, that is not the case most of the time. Words man ang yapon. Mga masamang words. Okay. Now we go to the third step, organizing your reviewer. So kung palatiktak ka mo, hopefully you understand my reference. It just needs a little shaping to the salon. Okay, aesthetic lang siya na. It's all about aesthetics kung kisang reviewer. But when I say aesthetics, hindi ni siya nga dapat may mga talambid sa corners with like red and blue or whatever, or no this man ha, but have you seen how med school students make their reviewers? It's very pretty. But sa ato ng mga law students, it just takes up space sa bond paper. It just takes up space, and we have a lot of words gidya sa aton nga mga reviewers. My reviewers can reach up to 200 pages. Ang civil procedure ko, my civil procedure reviewers take up to 200 pages. Arial 8 na siya. But that's because laba-laba man gyud Civ Pro, yeah, which is why very good to Leb for making Civ Pro 2 subjects. Okay, imagine guys, 70 rules. Tapos one subject lang. Anyway, when you're making a reviewer, you have to make it easy to read. So the rule here is if your younger sibling, if your younger sibling can understand it, then it's good to go. Any younger, ha? But if they're 18 years old or 8 years old, that's okay. What's important is kung mas manghod nga tao sa imo makabasa sang imong reviewer, then for sure it's understandable. I don't have a younger sibling, so I'm actually not applying this rule. But I sort of just dumb myself down. I'm just like, in basic English lang pala, kung mabasahan ko, mabasahan ko. Because, kita niyo, the people who wrote the civil code, they're dead. Sorry. um, August 30, 1950, nang take effect ang Civil Code of the Philippines. And, mga sinauna ang English nila, magsulat sila, so you have to reinterpret it in nowadays terms. But hindi man siya nga daw tamaan ka Gen Z, ha? If you no longer catch the vibe of your wife, it's a ground for annulment. No, you just have to make it ano gyapon, in simple English. So psychological incapacity under the case of Tan Andal versus Andal is now a legal term. So this means that the inclusion of psychological experts or medical experts are no longer necessary in proving the existence of psychological incapacity. As an example. Okay. Actually, sorry, may informat. What if you say the SC ruled the petition to be lit? I mean, diba? That is understandable. Intindihan tama na, diba? So if you want to write it in such a way that intindihan mo lang siya, go, why not? But again, language evolves. So if you want to put it in terms that are understandable for Gen Zs, including me, 18 years old pa lang, guys, pwede mo na. But simple English is the way to go. Right. Don't be too conscious about the length. Long reviewers are okay. We want to say that reviewers are for review. Last minute siya, literally. Mag-ano ka, amo na lang iskim mo na lang gina siya. Sure, pwede man. But as I said, ang ako niya how I treat reviewers are these are your study materials in lieu of your actual readings or your actual cases. So for your working students, working classmates rather, which is, I don't know, lang takom, like 70% siguro or 80% of you guys are working students. It's easier now in a online setup for sure, but in the long term, mentally, budlay man gid siya. So you guys really have to help each other out. And of course, 8 to 5. Let's say that you're gonna work 8 to 5, and you're going to be focusing on your work. Hindi ka gini aka-read sa mga cases. So you have to be a blessing to your classmates and make your reviewers. And long reviewers are okay, as long as it's shorter than your actual reading material. So Bernas is like 1,200 pages long, I think. Tapos if your reviewer is like 700 pages long, what's the point, diba? So it's a condensed version in such a way nga maano. Si Bernas magsulat na siya. Damo history, damo pa na Espanyol kung gisang butang niya. So of course you don't need any of those. But rest in peace to Bernas. Thank you so much for your words. But his ideas in 10 pages can always be condensed in just one page. Of course, but it's condensed, meaning you have every word is important. Anyway, but it's important that you don't add anything extra either. Nothing. Wala na mga commercial break sa imong mga reviewers. Everything has to be related to your subject. Substance precedes form. Meaning, if you're gonna put a table or a graph or whatever, then it has to be relevant. All of it has to be relevant. In a reviewer, 100% of your reviewer has to be relevant. ang ako nga rule is, if a person can read my reviewer, all of it, he can pass the subject. Naman ako nga rule. So if my reviewer, if ginbasehan ang ako nga reviewer and hindi magyapon mag pass ang ako nga classmate sang subject, the reviewer is deemed as a failure as well. But of course, I won't go beating myself up, no, of course. Dapat tuon sila gyapon. But amon ang standard of a reviewer. That's it. Some other things to note: making a reviewer is very tedious. You can't make a reviewer in one weekend. It's impossible. The only reason that I was able to make all my reviewers last semester is because every day after my class, ginasulat ko siya. Actually, nag-transition ako sa second sem, wala na ako notebook. Everything is just in my laptop. As discussed ang professor, gusulat mo ko notes in my reviewer. So it's exhausting because honestly, reading is easier than writing. You just read a case, okay, you absorb it. But in terms of the learning process, reading is just the foundation. Hindi na siya mag-stick, gid. You read it, you rewrite it, you teach it to yourself, and then you teach it to others. Amon ang ultimate form of learning. Once you can teach it to others, you have really understood the subject. So apart from making reviewers, I suggest also you have study groups wherein you're able to discuss to each other ang inyong cases, ang topic, etc. Especially when examination period draws near. Okay. And you have to be patient with yourself. So meaning your first reviewer is going to be ugly for sure. Ako, nung first reviewer, sang constiwa naman na yulaw ay, gidya, to the point na kisawa ay na ginabasa sa ibang classmates. But later on, gina-improve ko how I wrote it. It used to be long bond, duha columns para dili sila mabasa. But later on, I learned now you don't need the two columns. Just one, and then just basahon lang ginila. So it will improve over time. And of course, sharing is caring. So I'm sure you guys care about your classmates. Or even if you don't care, that's fine. Share lang mo gyapon. It's in law school, there's this thing called good karma. Personally, I don't believe in karma. Okay, what you work for is what you get. But there are people who believe in karma. And if you believe in karma, this is another reason for you to make reviewers, because you're going to be helping out other people, not just your classmates, not just your batchmates, but other students who are going to enroll in the College of Law. After pa na gani, gina-upload ko pa gini sa Course Hero, sa ano pa gina, Scrib, and of course it's a way also for you to access other documents. But it helps, and of course Google Drive. And after this, I will share to you. Pero first sem ay himo reviewer kay ga-adjust pa ko to. Mag second year mo second sem particularly, I will share to you. Dali lang kita. Sorry. May tao na noktok. Anyway, very important, practically speaking, making reviewers with friends. Now, ang pinakauna friends. Ang pinakauna is you have to agree to reviewer style, font, format, etc. Which is budlay siya if damo amo. So usually mga 3 to 4 lang or 2 to 3, okay naman na. I wanted to have help, which is why before sa there are some parts of the reviewer na gina-copy paste from other reviewers. But as long as you cite your sources, diba? Even the authors of those reviewers, it's fine. It's fine. But as much as possible, para personalize man yung mga reviewer, dapat original. So try to avoid copy pasting it. But anyway, well, very important getting when making review is you have to be in sync. It's easier before kung face-to-face kay mahaba mo gid kung anong gusto mong i-change be. Nag-meeting kami to sa mga presidents with Section E and Section F and discussing how we will make our digest pool, how we will make our reviewers, how we will make our 100 questions. Every week be, because our class and consi before was just once a week, we would come up with 100 questions. Of course, we never reach 100 questions. But we would come up with as many questions as we could and we would provide answers para amo na lang na pagid ang reviewhan sa mga classmates naman. But anyway, but in terms of making a reviewer, amo na yung pinakabudlay because amo na you have to agree to reviewer style, font, format, etc. and writing style. May iban ginaya nga di think na relevant ang ining provision, iban who doesn't think it's relevant. May iban who thinks nga ang ilang reviewer is literally just mnemonics and bullet points. May iban man who adds questions, who adds figures, etc. So the good thing about it, the pro is that it will help you with your time, help you with your resources. You can achieve more reviewers. But in terms of quality, hindi siya as flowy. But if you can do it together, then why not? Or so you can divide your work. Kung sa Bernas na be, Bernas has sections and subsections. Diba? Let's say be Article 1. Okay, Article 1 just has one section. But let's say be Article 2. Article 2 has 28 sections, so for example. And then for each section, may subsection pag si Bernas, diba? And Attorney Gillian assigns you readings, literally to read Bernas. What we did before, because ang amon nga prof also had Bernas as his main reference, is gina-compress namon, do gina-digest namon pag mga subsections, what they mean. So of course, among historical, whatever, blah, 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 wala na namon gina-include. Except for sometimes ang amon nga teacher, when he gives his quizzes before exams, he has bonus questions. Like for example, ang cannonball. The cannonball before, during the Spanish times, was the way to delineate how far the territorial sea would be. How many kilometers was it? So we're like, ano niyang cannonball? Yeah, of course, when nakita cannonball, diba? So buong 12 kilometers na, 12 nautical miles rather, ang territorial sea. But of course, it was a bonus question. So sometimes we included those. Again, we just adjusted to what our professors were looking for. But you can do something like this. This is just an example. Very important is just you talk about it. And then Google Doc, ang among best friend because we just all work together dito. And then after that, you publish it, you send it to your classmates. A reviewer is not at the end of the semester. A reviewer is released every week sa amo na. We release a reviewer every week. Ako, I already shared the Google Doc, meaning gina-construct na siya as the semester keeps going. But gina-construct na ko na siya even before the class starts. But before the class starts, my classmates can have a reference in case mayara sila recitation. But ani naman ang split screen, di ba? You have one window, Google Meet nyo or Google or Zoom, the other window ang inyong references. Of course, in a face-to-face setup, ang desk niyo are cleared. But in a face-to-face setup, gina-print na yapon ng reviewers, so it's still there. As long as hindi lang ka mo mag-cheating in the exams, good. Of course, recitation is still recitation. You close your messenger if you can. Pero, well, if buliganay ang inyong thing, I will not. All I can do is discourage you for it. Because we are taking the bar exam alone. But if grades ang ginalagas niyo because there is a no failure policy, diba? I mean, kamo ang hindi mag-fail, not the university, hindi kamo pag i-fail. Well, that's up to you. Attorney Panes would say that our generation is very resourceful, which is true. which is true. But ang gina-reiterate sa mga professors is you are taking the bar exam alone. So at this point, there are times nga hindi maiwasan, mag-cheat kita because no one knows what's behind our laptop. Kasi bala may mga Manila paper, nakita dira yan, or here we have whiteboards. That's okay. It's, for me personally, it's a way of remembering knowledge. That's what I do. No, not that I have Manila papers behind my laptop, but it's a way of remembering knowledge. It's not the actual test. But when the actual test comes in, you have to train yourself, kid, because there's no better teacher than fear itself. Than fear of failure. So that's just my life advice. Anyway. Okay, now I will show to you some sample reviewers. I have several sample reviewers. Unfortunately, the reviewers that I will show to you will not be any of your first year subjects. Ang mga reviewers ko lang, they are second year, second sem na. Oops. Okay. This is public international law. Civil procedure. Civil procedure, as you can see here, it just says prelims and midterms. Because may pagid ko Civ Pro, Quiz 1, Quiz 2, and then finals. Okay, guys, this is only until Rule 13 and 63 pages na. And then civil procedure is up to Rule 70, Rule 73, I think. Lipat na Hawaii ko ng tuon ko. But it is very anyway, let's take a look at the civil procedure. So usually what I have here is ang aton what the subject is all about, etc., and our sources. The sources are ang main gid na reference ni Judge Go, but she has two references, Regalado and Riano, but you just put all of those. Intellectual property is a very serious thing, as as reiterated several times by Attorney Panes sa amon na intellectual property na And then it's very ang mga lectures nga nebe iyagin niya sang professor ninyo. They did not take it from anywhere else. Yeah, they have their references, pero the words coming out of their mouth, it is their intellectual property. Of course, you can argue, wala ba na register sa Philippines? Joke lang. IPO-fail or whatever. But you get what I mean. Even ang akon nga discussion sa Bong, akon man na intellectual property. Yeah, it's recorded and you can see it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I gave my consent and everything. But wala sila gahambal. But I did tell them na mahimo ko reviewer and gina-cite ko sila as my sources. These are my may tatak ko. I have my signature in all my reviewers, LMT 2021. But it's only as to the reviewer. But in terms of sources, ilagi niya. I have no words here nga akon. Copy-paste most of it. Of course, gonna rephrase ko and everything and all those. But generally, ilaman ni gyapon nga mga definitions. Okay, so this is Arial 8 ha. So when you print it, when it's Arial 8, ang size ng highlighter, ang width ng highlighter is just the one line. So if you want to follow Arial 8, you can follow Arial 8. But if you want to go for other mga fonts, that's fine too. So siya because highlight ko. So just the right height for the words. Anyway, so I have tables like these. Okay, para magbasa sila. Okay, cause of action right of action how I organize my reviewers is how I imagine the reader's eyes shift kung diin sila kakadto. So once they can see all of these, naka-bold siya and then naka-contrast and then naka-color, and then they look onto the right, they can understand it better. Okay. So of course, maamo ni sakit sa mata, but you have to expect the reader na basahon din nila. Because of course, kung hindi nila mabasa, hindi. And then you have a table, the appeal process. So if you came from the lower courts, etc., appeal to, etc. These are all important because this is how judge asks questions. Si judge ni exam ni siya daan multiple choice. She has multiple choice 30 questions and then the rest are essay. So sometimes she will go like, if the case for whatever, blah, 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 where will you file them and under what mode of review? So you can say SC, petition for review on certiorari. That's rule 45. Okay. And then I'm gonna show to you. So, okay, these are all tables. Tables are very important in terms of visual learning because aside from just reading it, it's organized pagid. It's very important na once you have data, hindi lang siya nga daw naka-paragraph form in your brain, in your brain, but it is also organized. So, naka-organize siya from lower court up to the biggest court, Supreme Court, and a constitutional provision, yung mani, yung source. Maagyanin niya siya later on during your midterms. So, as early as now, you can start reading it, whatever. Or you can have this kind of table. And then you can come up with a table like this para may mental flow naman. What I do is insert drawing new. So hapos mo na siya, edit, for example. And then with the use of arrows, etc., you can understand it. See, as early as now, you can ask your younger brother. Okay, let's say if he understands this. So are the causes of action between more than two parties? No. If it is two parties only, you can join them and you can have as many causes. If yes, they are multiple parties. Do they meet the rule, blah, 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 blah. So, though, intindihan bala. So, all of these will come out in word form in your codal provisions. But once you understand them and you can turn them into a visual aid, masapos pagid siya maintindihan sang imo classmate. Okay. Or labor. My labor law too for me is one of my favorite na guro nga reviewer. Don't forget mag-cite kamusta yung inyo source. Oh, sorry. Gina-separate ko pagid siya by midterms and by finals. Para, for example, you're a new student, you're reading all of these and you can just print it right now. You can start studying in advance. So, like mag-strike ka, etc. You have all of these visual aids for you to determine how it all works. Ang labor law one. The labor law one reviewer is also may inclusion should be of cases because at this point Attorney Villones was asking us ang tanan nga recitation naman was just on cases, nothing on labor law. So gaamo ko ni insert ko tape I say insert table just one by one. And then I put case. And then just a brief, hindi siya not even as long as one digest. It is a digested digest. So section 10, blah, blah. Tapos kung case siya, dotted line ko lang siya. Anyway, these are all my preferences. You don't need to follow them. But it's important nga the reader has an understanding of a distinction between codal provisions, just single bar, or cases, dotted line, or even others nga may highlight pagid nga double bar pagid ilay nga up to you. So for example, in determining if there is an employer-employee relationship, nakabutang diri like as employee. So in this case, in this case, in this case. So one-liner lang gid siya. So remember, you have all the resources that you need. After this, I'm hoping mahimo ka mo digest pool with your class. Usually, there are some people who make digest pools, just 6, 5, or 7 of them. Amo na be. And that's fine also. Ang amon nga class ya galing, gihimo gid digest pool. Sorry, actually tapos na ako. I'm gonna stop share, okay? Or pwede man hindi. But at this point, you can start interrupting me if you have any questions about this, especially some mga presidents who are interested in organizing their classes. You can ask for for tips from your UpClass how to do it, and we can teach you.